Kadosh, Boker Tov. So what we're going to speak about today is a very interesting topic. This is a continuation to the previous shiur that we gave on last Friday, which had to do with a very simple question about a case that happened in the university where you basically had a boy that they were picking on him all the time. And what he did is that he became smart. Every single time they used to come and they used to steal his lunch, his sandwich. And nobody would admit it, and even the other boys also wouldn't stick up for him. So he was getting already tired. So he pulled a fast one. He outsmarted, right, the other people. And what he did was he comes and he put poison in the food. And all of a sudden the guy comes and he starts, right, eating in the middle of the class. All of a sudden you have one of these boys and they fall and it's food poisoning. So the boy gets up and he's all proud of himself and he says, "Don't worry about it. We caught the thief." And everyone's like, "What's going on?" So yeah, this is what I did. And then the whole question is, was it permitted for a Jew to do that? Obviously, it didn't happen with Jews, but the question is it permitted for a Jew to do that or not? That was the question which was asked. Rav Zilberstein, if you remember, he went and he said it was permitted. And that was over here. That's what we did last time. And Rav Chaim Kanievsky says, "Lichora yesh makom ledivrei gisi," which means that lichora there is words to what my brother-in-law is saying. And he has what to rely on. But now we're going to go into the entire inyan. And we're going to say like this. Kibalti ba'inyan. I accepted to do with the concept of alitelim lanasha. Asrot michtavim. Tens of letters. Utlunot balpe. And also people coming and telling me verbally, right, about the complaints. וראיתי שתלמיד חכם מופלגים, תלמידי חכמים מופלגים, כועשים ורועשים אודות דבריי. They're coming and they're saying, "Look at this, how could he say such a thing?" אני הקטן ודל, I, the small one, right, I'm going to come, and what I'm going to answer them, right, I know right now it's not going to be משכנע. Yeah, he comes and he says, I know it's not going to be משכנע אותם, it's not going to come and it's going to, convince them, okay? But he says, but I'm going to say it anyway. כבר כתב הרמב"ן בספרו מלחמת השם. So the Ramban, Nachmanides, wrote in a sefer מלחמת השם מסכת ברכות. ואתה מסתכל בספרי, and the one that's looking in my book, don't say in your heart, כי כל תשובותיי לרב זכריה הלוי, כולם בעיניי תשובות נצחות. Don't think that every single answer that I say here is 100% correct, and there's nothing to talk about. ומחלות אותה להודו בהם על פני רשותך. תתבהה בהיותך מספק אחד מהן על לומדיה. Right, he says, don't come to the end of the book. It's not true. כי יודע כל לומד תלמודנו, שאין למחלוקת מפרשה וראיות גמורות, ולא ברוב קושיות חלוטות. he says, שאין בחוכמה הזאת מופיע ברור. Right, גאון חשבני חשוד, he said, meaning like this. He's saying, listen, if you're going to come, you're going to think that every single proof that I bring is 100% a proof, so don't even bother, because it doesn't exist. I could only come and I could bring you a proof what appears to me, which means what I think, right? But not that it could be that it's 100% like that. I cannot know. So because of that, that's what he comes and he says, I'm going to try the best. So now he comes and he says, right? It's going to be the opposite. So let's see. Shamati Pam, I once heard from a Gaon Gadol Maran Bali Cheskel. He was arguing. Amalu Maran Zatzal, Maran told him, "Ani lo mevin et dvarecha v'doche otam." I don't understand. I'm just going to push it off. So he says, "But for me, it's dvarim betelim." However, though, for you that you do understand, so therefore they're divrei Torah, and therefore you're going to receive reward for everything that you're saying. So now we're going to start. Okay, it starts like this. Before I'm even going to start on answering the questions, one of the tabligh, right? He came. He told me, "What's the proof that you have that a person is allowed to put in the sandwich poison to kill the thief?" So I went and I told him, 1 second, right? What's the proof that you're allowed to drink water from your sink? Yeah. Now the other rabbi was like, "What? Well, what does that mean?" Right? But immediately he said, "Well, you need a proof, right? Well, why would it be a suit to drink from the faucet, from the tap water, right? It's mine. Right? So therefore, I'm allowed to do whatever I want with my water." So the rabbi went and he answered him. That's exactly the answer to your question. What does that mean? You need a raya. He says, 1 second, do I need a proof to hide right, a sandwich to hide poison in a sandwich which is mine, which is in my house. The sandwich is mine, yeah, and the backpack, the luggage, the knapsack is mine, yeah. I can do the sandwich whatever I want, right? It cannot be that I cannot do something which is in my house. Now, again, I already told you, not always is this correct in a court of law, because I told you what happened in America, and I told you what happened in England. In England, if you remember, what happened is somebody was coming in to rob someone else. The guy came on the second floor and he pushed him out the window, right? The guy was trying to come in, he pushed him out. The guy fell, whatever it is, he sued him. And the owner of the house went to jail and he had to pay money even. Right? That's just the way that it worked there, which is crazy. I don't understand. The guy's breaking into your house. What do you want to tell him? The Bechavot, come inside? You understand? Like, what's going on? Right? But that's what happened over there in England. Here in America, there was a guy that he set up booby traps. That when the guy broke into the house, they went in and shot him. And the reason why they took him to court and everything is that what happens if it needed to be a firefighter? The fact that it was set up in such a way that if a firefighter would break in because they needed to put out a fire, they would have gotten injured. So also now the crook, even though he's doing it, right, he's held liable. But again, it really doesn't make sense. In your house, you should be permitted to do whatever that you want, right? That's the way it should be. So he says, whiskey המכיל קלור או קומרוניקה, בגלל ששמע שגנב יודע שביתו יש whiskey ורוצה לשתות? He says, I don't understand. Imagine right now you have whiskey, or you have Clorox, right? You have to take it out of your house because you know that a ganav is going to come in and start drinking it, and then something's going to happen to you. Or is it going to happen to him? Well, what does that mean? Right? קיצורו של דבר, לא ייתכן, it doesn't make sense. ואין כל צד, it doesn't even make sense what's going on. To stop someone to say that he can't do something in his own private property? Why not? So he says, but maybe you're going to say, 1 second, maybe here, right, you're putting some mavet bechavana, that if somebody eats it, you want them to die. And maybe that's why it's a sur. Meaning like this, if it's going to be in my house, I could do whatever I want in my house. But if I'm putting the bechavana to kill someone, right, even though I know they're coming into the house, but that may be a little bit different, right? Maybe there, you could come and you could say, ulai yesh loman, one segment, if you have no problem with putting some mavet in your house, so then we can't start obligating you on your mindset, right? So then that's compared to the case of menachot. The Gemara says in Masechet Menachot, lo shamat shetavat tinok bayam. If you did not hear, right, that a tinok was going to be tava bayam, right? What does that mean, tava bayam? In a sense, right, that he's actually coming and he's drowning. Upiresh metzuda la'alot l'gimna. You put a metzuda to catch fish, and you brought up the tinok with the fish. So he says you're going to be patur. Rabbi says you're going to be chayav. Why? Because we go after your actions. Rabbi says you're going to be chayav, you go after your mindset. So we go after the actions and not the mindset. Right? So the Chazon Ish comes and he says, you didn't do an action. You just put a trap for the fish. And now it happened to catch a child there. Right? Was needed for pikuach nefesh. Therefore, even though you were pasha b'machshato, which means that you did something negative in your machshava, there's no maaseh isur, right? Therefore, you shouldn't be chayav. Now, again, remember here, this is not self-defense, right? Because if it's self-defense, for sure it should be mutar. Remember that, right? Because if self-defense for sure is mutar, here's not self-defense. You know that there's a guy that keeps on breaking in to the safe, and what happens is every single time they keep on taking money. Now, there's nobody there each time. So it's not self-defense. Now, what happens is that now, can you put a booby trap so that way the next time he opens up the safe, it kills him? And you're going to say, listen, I didn't tell him, he's in my property, my safe, my this. Can you do that or not? That's a question. So it was the same thing here. Here, they keep on stealing his bread. It's not self-defense. I'm saying, okay, they're picking on him, but it's not self-defense. They said nobody's hitting him, it's all, you understand, it's the games, right? But here, he's putting the ra'al, the poison in the sandwich in order to teach them a lesson, right? In order to stop them. So then that's the question. So he says, so it comes out from the Chazon Ish that you're not obligated on machshava, right? What does that mean? You're not obligated on your mindset. However, the Rabbi comes and he says, we should go after the machshava, which means since he did a ma'aseh, right? And he put on Shabbat this trap, therefore it's going to be chayav on chilul Shabbat. Nevertheless, right? He didn't do anything. Here, the entire action that killed the ganav was not his action. It was a trickery, right? And also, not to say that the ganav is going to do the kadim, he didn't do anything. The opposite. The Ganav thinks in his heart, right, that for sure he should be Choshev B'tshuva, and he shouldn't steal. So he's not going to come and he's going to be, meaning that right now, you're not going to have the mindset, you don't want the guy to steal. The opposite, you don't want him to steal. But if he's already going to steal, he's going to learn his lesson. Yeah, that's what he's going to do. And that's why they said, just like, he's going to be patur. However, though, he's going to be chayav dinei shamayim because of two reasons. Number one, he put it in front of an animal, right? And he didn't put it inside of your house, right? And then the animal came and he went and he took it, right? So therefore, he's going to be patur even dinei shamayim, because it cannot be that if you're going to put poison in your house and somebody now comes and they eat it, something's going to happen, right? And number two, also the behemah is lav bardat. He doesn't have mind. So since he doesn't have a mind, it's something completely different, right? But here, this guy that's coming, he's got a mind. Now, you killed him. Yeah, you killed him with a grama, right? It's like a side. It didn't, you take out a gun, you shot him to death. What you did was, you caused it. You went, if he does this, so then this is what's going to happen. Okay? Now the next point. היורד לחיי חברו והופך אותו למסכן נורא. חייב לצפות לתגובה. Basically like this, right? Imagine right now, right? He comes, תלמידי חכמים, they ask, okay, fine. The Baal sandwich we didn't kill him. But still, on the fact that he put the poison in the sandwich, somebody died, right? Is that good in the eyes of Hashem? Meaning, okay, fine, you're right. You didn't kill him, but you caused it. Is that good? So we could answer that, the Ganav, he should have thought of the possibility, right, that he should do something against him. Just like we find by a certain story. Listen to the story. Maaseh be'adam shebarach mi'ishto v'hapcha la'aguna. It was a story of a guy that he ran away from his wife, and she became an aguna, right? Remember, an aguna is basically that she can't get married. She's stuck for the rest of her life because he ran away, he didn't give her a get, right? And that's it, and he didn't die. So she comes, she pleads, and she asks for a get. He answers, if you're going to be mevatel ala ketubah, I'm going to give you the get. If you forgive the amount of money that I owe you in the ketubah, sometimes they write in the ketubah 26,000, 18,000, 52,000, 100,000, whatever the amount is. If you forgive, I'll give you a get. After the Gedushin, she comes and she asks him to pay for the ketubah. And she brings Edin, right? That what happened is that she gives a muda'ah, which means she brings witnesses that she's not mevateret on the ketubah. She doesn't forgive on the ketubah. And only because that she needed a get, she did it as if that she's forgiving it. But really, Be'emet, she didn't forgive. The husband says, if so, there's no get. I gave you the get only on that condition, right? So now what's the psak? What's halacha? The husband gave the get on condition that what? She's mevateret ala ketubah. She tricked him by saying, yeah, she's mevateret, but she comes in front of two witnesses and she's not mevateret. She brings the witnesses, she's demanding the ketubah. He already gave her the get. What's halacha? Posek ma'aram al-shich. Listen to this. It's brought down in the Pitrei Tshuva, even as a Siman Kuf Nun Dalet Tzikutan Lamidvav. The get is a good get. And the husband has to take into consideration that the woman would have done this because of his actions. Which means, right, that she's going to act like him, imikesh titkakash, ve'eshiv lo gemulo berosho, and he got his punishment on his head, right? And she's going to do arama, she's going to trick him, and she's going to do a muda'ah, and therefore the husband has to take that into consideration, and therefore and say, right, he has to tell her, you have to tear the ketubah, or you have to make a condition with the shaliach. And since he didn't, shmamina, that even though that he gave it, right, he gave her the get without any conditions, and therefore it's a good get, and the husband is obligated to pay the ketubah. Wow, this is the case that happened. Are you listening? Yeah, so now what happens? The exact same halacha applies to here. He says, since in this limudim, asa talmid chayim, right, this guy comes, and he's bothering him day after day. You know what that is? Making this boy's life miserable, stealing the sandwich lunch every single day. You know what that is? Yeah? So he comes and he says, right? He became misken akita. Automatically he became the, like the misken, like the nebach, as they say in Haketia, yeah? The nebach of the class, right? The misken, meskin of the class. So what happens? He comes and he says that he even wanted mamash to even leave the school and everything. And it came out to the kach that they went, they start hiding the knapsack, right? And all the different things. What's going on here? And nobody wants to help him. He's an umlal, he's a misken. To even come do that. So therefore, now he's without any choice. And therefore, what? The ganav should have taken into consideration that he's going to get his payback. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's going to be payback. There's going to be payday, right? And it's going to be juicy. And here it was incredible. Yeah, the way that it was done. Yeah, he got him back very, very well. So he says, because of that, well, he doesn't expect that it's going to happen. So therefore, he says the ganav, he was betifshutov gavato, he was the one that killed himself. So therefore, it says Rav Zilberstein, he says nothing to do with one another. So at the end of the day, he was the cause to himself. So he says, Rav Zilberstein says, if so, we're going after the Maharam al-Shif, that as long as the ganav should have suspected, the thief should have suspected that he should get paid back, and he didn't do it, he did it to himself. So here, right, Musari mitzad ganav, right, be'avud rishein mina, right, look at the Yeshua Malko Parashat Beshalach, right, the biur hara min ha'olam u'davar nachutz u'mevir refuah le'olam. When you get rid of the evil in the world, it's a necessity for the world, and it brings cure to the world. And therefore, he comes and he says, you're not allowed to kill them with your hands, but to leave it that they're going to die on their own. So then there's no problem whatsoever. And therefore, that's it. And that's why it's like, you're bringing song to the world. You could sing the praises and look what's going on. Okay? But now the question is, okay, fine. So now there's no problem, mitzad, that he should get his payback. But why isn't there an obligation that you have to save another Jew? Which means like this. You have an obligation that if you see a Jew drowning, whatever, you have to save them. So where's that obligation here? At the end of the day, here you're doing the exact opposite. Here you're putting the thing right there in front of him, but then you're just letting him die. You understand? Why don't you save him? So he says, Yesh mitzvah latzil kol echad miYisrael. You have a mitzvah to save, and even a rasha. So how can you hide it? Because at the end of the day, right, you should save even the rasha. So he says, Yesh lomar en mitzvah latzil ganav muad. There's no mitzvah to save a thief, which is a muad. Muad means that he's a habituous thief. He steals all the time. How do we know this? The Gemara Masechet Bava Metzia says, Pegim Lamubet, right? Rabbi Lazar ben Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he gave ganavim Yisraelim to Malchut Hariga. And it's already brought down to the Bet Yosef Shem Pechet in the name of Rashba. Temelech Amishpat Yamid Eretz. What does that mean? Right? The king of the land is the king. And ganavim muarim, the ganavim, they come and they destroy the world. And therefore you're allowed to give them to be killed. So you see from here that this thief, right, that he brought his friend to such a shigal and such a thing that it was, point of no return, that he had to put mamash poison in order. There's no mitzvah to save the guy. And you could also learn it from the Roeh Be'ema Daka, right? So he says, do you know that there are people that they have these animals, small animals? They're shepherds, Roeh Be'ema Daka. That which means we don't put them in a pit, but if they fall in a pit, you leave them there. Yeah, what does that mean? As brought on Yerodea, the same thing here. This ganav that he did, a chokum minhag, kavua, to steal his bread and to always make a laughing stock out of him. When the guy has nothing what to do and he starts eating his bread, right? So he says, simanav simanim sheshofech dam. This is a siman that he's a shofech dam. And there's no mitzvah to come and to save him. And on him and everybody else, it's written on the Teilah Rashav Yamot. And he's domet to Amumah Lachis, to come and to cause strife and anger to Hashem. It's brought down that Asuli Ftoto, you're not allowed to redeem him. If he gets captured, Asuli, Gamze Lachis Chaviro, he comes and he's doing it purposely to get him angry. And Lachis Boreo said, look in the Pitchet Shuvah that according to the Shulchan Aruch, you don't have to save a Ganav Mefursam, also if it's not Lachis. Okay, fine. What about now the other case? You remember the other case was, can you put, right? Do you know, like in all these places, like, France, Gibraltar, I remember all these places, they used to have, right, outside, they used to have these lines, clotheslines, that they used to hang up the clothing. Now, the truth is that these clotheslines were connected to the windows because you used to open up the window, whether it's of your washroom or whatever it was, and then you would be able to hang up the clothing. Now, the thing is, if somebody's smart, right, those windows are usually open, right? So what can you do? You get a ladder, go to the clotheslines, go up, right? And then you come into the window. So what happens if you want to do a good trick and you make that the clotheslines are very, very weak? And therefore, when the guy's going to come and try to jump into your window, it's going to break and he's going to fall. and it's obviously going to be dangerous for him, but are you allowed to do that? So, Haim Mutar L'Dayar, is it permitted for somebody living in a very high floor that he's afraid of these ganavim to put these chivlek beside rufim? That if the ganav wants to come inside, right, it's going to tear and he's going to fall and he's going to die. Are you allowed to do that or not? So the answer is, according to the Pitchet Tshuva, in the name of the Chavot Yair, and bedavar Yehudi ganav mefursam shenitpas shetzarich latzil. That means you don't have to save him from death. He's not considered mushal le'achis. Here you are obligated to save him. Why? Because it's gonev le'teavon. Here he's stealing, not lachis, not to get you angry. He needs money. He's hungry, money, thirsty. So therefore he's doing it just for that. So you have to save him. So he says, and it's not compared to the student case that we said that he's doing it lachis. Meaning in the case of the student, it wasn't that the other guy was poor, so he's stealing the guy's bread because he wants to eat. He's stealing it to cause him to get angry. He's stealing it to put the guy down. That's something completely different. There it's lachis, to get him angry. Here, imagine a guy is stealing, but it just doesn't have anything. So something completely different. Right? You're not allowed to stand on the blood of your friend. Also, Rabbi Kiva Eger actually brought down in the Tshuva, Aledim, that they saw one of the Kiddushin, right? That it was Mashuach Beborit, right? Rabbi Kiva Eger said that he doesn't become pasul. Why? Because at the time that he's doing it, he still didn't do he didn't do an action of taking off his beard, right? Now, so maybe we could say that afterwards he's going to be mitcharet and he's not going to actually do it. Which means, imagine right now you come and you see that the guy has everything already ready to cut off his peot. Now we know that this is Isur D'oraita, so that will make him pasul for a dut. He can't become testifying. Now this is one of the edim, right, of Edei Kiddushin. Now after, on the edim that they saw, right, the one of the Edei Kiddushin is coming and he's doing this. So in Ken, if so, Yeshomai, we could say that afterwards he's not going to do it. So we're going to say that since at the time when he has it, right, he's still not a ganav. So you can't do that. You have no permission to come and to stop him from saving him. Because maybe Mehmet is going to do tshuva and he's not going to do it. But it's not something different than the one that's already eating the sandwich, that at the time of doing the sin, that's when he's already a choten, he's a mumah. You understand the difference? One more time. In the case of the sandwich, he already stole the sandwich. And when is the biggest Averah? When he's eating it. So for there, the time of the punishment is coming at the time of the actual eating. Here, at the time, when is the punishment? When he comes and he holds on to the chevle knisa on top of these clotheslines, and then it breaks and he falls. He still is not a thief until he doesn't get into the house. And by the way, you should know, this also in secular law also applies. Do you know that, for example, let's say right now, you come and you see someone in a store come and they take something and they put it in their bag instead of they're going to pay for it. Do you know that even the security guard of the store cannot do anything until they start leaving the store? Before leaving the store, even though the guy went and he put it in his bag, which obviously means that he's probably not going to pay for it, they still cannot do anything because they're still in the vicinity of the store. And therefore, maybe afterwards, he's going to come to the kupa, to the cashier, take it out of the bag and give it to them. And the fact that you cannot prove that yet, they can't do nothing. So what do they have to wait? They have to wait until they leave the store. Once they leave the store, and now they actually stole, now you can go after. You understand? That's the way it is also. Now it says in Dav Zayin Amud Aleph, Shalach le'Murukva Rabbi Lazar, sent Murukva to Rabbi Lazar, Bnei Adam ha'omdim alai, u'biadi le'mosram al-malchut, people that are against me, and I could give them over to the malchut. Ma'u ha'tzalacha? Shalach le, he sent him, Dom la'Hashem, be quiet. That means they went and they said, these guys are driving me crazy, I could give them to the government. Should I do it? He says, Dom la'Hashem yitchulelo. Keep quiet and stay quiet. That's what he said. Dom la'Hashem, and he's going to be mapil lechachalim chalim. Don't worry about it. Hashem will take care of it for you. So he says, go to the Bet HaMidrash and they're going to take over themselves. Don't worry about it. Hashem will take over for you. They went and they put him in jail. So the Khatam Sofer comes and he says, Bnei Adam עומדים עליי לחרב וגדף, כגון גניבה, שהיה צדיק תמיד חם לא נמצא עליו גם, כי אם שהיה פלגה. אפילו הכי, he says, אילבדי יכול היה מרוקווה להציל עצמו חלופים ולופים של גניבה, על ידי שמשקים ממנו בבית המדרש, היה רשאי מרוקווה למוסר מלכות. יש בוטה כמדקרות חרב. He says like this, he says something incredible. He says, here Murukva had a way out. The way out is if you go to the Bet HaMidrash and you learn Torah, right? So then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will do it. He'll take care of the rest. What happens if he didn't have any other way getting out. Says the Khatam Sofer, he would have been permitted to give him himself over to the authorities. Which means that only because he had a way out, he wasn't able to. But if he didn't have a way out, he would have been permitted. Says the Rav Zilberstein, the exact same thing happens with this misken. This misken, he was already gone. He had no way out. He didn't have. This guy is a hardy guy coming and taking away nefashot. It's a mutar kol sheken to put it inside of the sandwich. He says because if to give over with your own hands, you're allowed to give him over to the government. Kol sheken here when he's not doing anything, and the ganav is just killing himself, right? And there's no obligation on the misken to save the ganav from death. So therefore, he says because some people like this, they're destroying the world. They're from Zera Amalek, and there's even a mitzvah of aliteo l'rasha to such a person. Okay, fine. So now other people came and they said, okay, fine. But Rav Zilberstein, it's not in proportion. And by the way, this does exist. There exists even in secular law that there's something which is not proportional, which means like that. Imagine right now, right? We're going to say a certain nation, without mentioning names, they come and they do a certain atrocity. Can you come and send a nuclear weapon? No. Why? It's abuse of force, meaning that it's not in proportion. In a sense of the same thing, which means for something so small, you can't do that. Imagine somebody comes and he calls somebody a name. The guy turns around and kills him. For sure he's going to go to jail. Why? It's not proportional. But if somebody comes and they're knocking him out, so then we get into why, because then it's proportional, saving his life. If you know for a fact that the guy's not going to kill him, and he's only going to steal the money, you can't go and start killing and do whatever you want. It's not the right proportion. So here the question is, 1 second, he asked me, 1 second, isn't it not according to the proportion? Right? Because for example, we find by Tashlume Kefel, right, which is paying back double, or paying back 4 and 5 for a ganav. We never found over there that he gets killed. Meaning a person that comes and he steals. Okay, so he has to pay back double, or he pays back 4 and 5, but we never found that he gets killed. So the Rama brings down the answer, the Rama brings down in Choshen Mishpat, a person that is hit by his friend, imagine right now somebody comes and for no reason they come and they start beating you up. You're allowed to go to the goyim and tell them, even though there's going to be a big danger, right, that's going to come onto the other guy. And there the Shach says, if he comes and he always hits people, you could have goyim come and cut off his hands. You could have goyim come and cut off his hands. Or to make him lose all his money. Or take off one of his organs. Just take them off in order to save him. The kavanah is even to make him blind or to make him deaf, right? Because all these things are considered death. And still it's going to be mutar. Why? In order to stop this guy of doing it in the future. This is brought down in the Shach and the Chavetz Chaim in Yichol Lashon Hara, that it's mutar for a person to stop from himself getting hit, right? To do to his friend more than the proportion. However, though, to kill him, it's a sur. But if you're not doing anything, it's mutar. So al kol panim nuim mikam, but we do see that there's no ta'ana of punishment of proportions. Because even by us, there's no punishment that has to do because the ganav is doing it to himself. Okay, fine. Yeah, no problem. However, though, are you permitted now to come and to be mevayesh the ganav, right? Until they're not going to do shidduchim with him. So can you come and now, so he says like this, Shamati, I heard, when I was a young child, the Chazon Ish Samlev, right, that there was money that was stolen from him. There was money that was stolen from him. He understood that this is one of the people that were very close to him, but he didn't know who it was. The Chazon Ish went, right, and he put, right, ink in all of his pocket. Yeah, did you hear what the Chazon Ish did? One more time. He knew that it was somebody close. What did he do? He put ink in his pocket. The guy goes, puts his hand in the pocket of Chazon Ish to steal, right? Obviously, it was probably like a jacket pocket or whatever it is, and he comes out, and now you know who the ganav is, right? It's written all over his hands. Yeah. So what happened? So so now you know who the ganav was, right? Right. Right. Now everyone knows that this guy is going around with ink on his hands. So everyone knew what happened. He had problems with his shidduchim. And now he had a big embarrassment also when everyone's looking at him, that he knows exactly what happened. It was so big, the embarrassment, that he had to leave the city. And he had a very big problem finding a zivug also. So the question is, was that permitted or not? So he says, Lo anu hizaknu lo. He says, I didn't cause him damage. He did it to himself. He was the one that embarrassed himself. So the same thing. On the ganav, that he should know that there's going to be aftaot b'mukdam mu'achar. That means that, and he's putting himself in danger. Meaning that at the end of the day, this is going to happen. You know, this is an incredible shiur to give over to boys in a school, in a class that happened to. You understand? Like, imagine you come and you start telling them all these stories, you know, like, the guy will become afraid because now you're giving them armor. You understand? You're giving them a mash. You know what it is. Sometimes it happens. You have classes and everything that there's somebody that's stealing and continues, and all of a sudden you come and you do this, and then that's it. You get rid of the problem once and for all. Okay? Now they say, okay, fine. But whoever told you that Yiteru Rashav Yamot is a mitzvah, right? Maybe it's only a reshut. If you want to, you could do it. If you want, you could basically pour it to the ganav, to the rashan, that he's going to die on his own. But not that you have a mitzvah to do it. The answer is, if you look in the Meiri, and metaknin Ovrei Averah, we don't do a takana for Ovrei Averah unless, right, they're going to touch it. So it's better that they should be mishtashesh bechetim to eat a misur, because that's only te'olel shav yamut. So you see from here that it's better. Shishtarshu bechet, and they should eat from something which is a sur. It's better to do that. So Marasti Rilo in the Yerushalmi comes and he says, since there's no reshut to touch these fruits because it's gezel, halite olel shav yamot. The more that there's an isur, the better that it is, in order that he should die quickly. So you see from here that there's a mitzvah that he should die quickly. However, though, we can't do it with our hands, but you could bring him to a matzav that he could die quickly. It means, again, you're not allowed to come and physically kill the guy, right? Remember, one more time, you're not allowed to physically come and kill the guy with your hands, but you could set him up in such a way. And here obviously, we're talking about ganavim, which are machribe olam, like the student of our case, right? That it was a mitzvah for him to give it to him, so he should die quickly. Look in Yerushalmi, that we're talking about ganavim muadim, habituous thieves, right? And that's what he actually comes and what he says. Okay, just like Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon, right? He gave them to be hanged, right? As it's brought down over there. Okay, now the question is, why don't we come and try to watch over for the Rasha to save him from sinning? So the Chavot Yair comes and he says, 1 second, but we're obligated to stop every single Jew from sinning, even if he sins b'mezid. So why haliteh lo rashav yamut? Right? And not only that, is he chashul lavor leisur gezel? Right? He's not going to be also on gezel, also or la. So why? So the answer is that we just saw from the Meiri and everything, the tirutz, that they say the opposite. It's better that he should actually die quickly, because we see this. So therefore he comes, and the Chazon Ish also answered on this, like the En Yitzchak, that he says, "Kol dekevan she'en yadua mi notel haperot." Since we don't know who it is, it's done privately. She'ena Yisrael yarevim ze lezeh, which means this: I have an obligation that you should do mitzvot, and I have an obligation to stop you for doing an averah. But that's if I know who you are. If I don't know who you are, I'm not obligated. Because Kol Yisrael yarevim ze lezeh, which means every Jew is held accountable for another Jew, and they're guaranteed for a guarantor for another Jew, is only if I know who it is. If I don't know who it is, there's nothing there. Okay? So, right, then they came and they said also there was a whole bunch of farim, yoshvek varim, shemyamshim chalavim, ubasar achorim shel gememot, and they come and they put it in the house, and they sell them one by one, and they give a tam that, what's the problem? They're selling it. So if it's, what's the problem? So again, these are all just the different, concepts, right, of what it is. Now, the Hechal has a different explanation on the case of the Gemara to do with the ladder. If you remember last time, the story was, right, he asked me from the Hechal that he said, right, not like us. Why? Hechal says that there was a ganav that he went to somebody's house, and in the middle of the night, right, the rabbi suspected that maybe he's going to steal. What did he do? He took away the ladder. Now the ganav, he thinks that there's a ladder there, because remember, they used to have like a second floor. It used to be like a ladder, not stairs. So he took away the ladder. The ganav comes, boom, and he falls on the floor and he dies, right? Or whatever it is. Or there it says that he broke his, whatever it was. So therefore, the question is it mutar or not? So there, he comes and he says that there's no reshut to put the life of a ganav in danger, right? And to hide something. So therefore, he comes and he says, and he brings a proof from this story, right? Whether it was permitted or not. So he comes and he says like this. He says, we're going to say that why is it you weren't careful? Because that he wasn't careful of stealing, right? To check. if there's nothing there, some of it inside of the bread, right? You already know, right, that this guy's an expert in medicine. That's what they're learning. They're learning medicine. So how do you know all the different types of things that they're using, right? So why didn't you actually smell or check it beforehand, before eating it? The Midrash says, in a place where that's where he's going to that's where he's going to be hung. So what? He's always going to be protected, right? He's not going to always win. So he says because of that, it's bilut that he's doing it so quickly, he doesn't pay attention. Therefore, he's going to eat it. So for just like there's a mitzvah litakesh imaikesh, litapel mitapal, he says so too there's a mitzvah to show to everybody that there's no mitzvah to save this guy. And in the place of the listim mekapeach shamunitla, there he's going to come and he's going to be hung. The last one that we're going to do today, we'll just the summary. There's no chashash there's no suspicion of putting the poison in the bread, right? Or putting, for example, you're going to put these candies inside of your safe, and then the ganav comes and he eats it, and he's going to die. There's no problem whatsoever, right? He says, if right now, right, you're going to put a candy, however, though he says, but if you're going to put it inside of a candy and stum the candy, they're eating it like that, there you do have to save it. Because there, he's just doing it just to eat. He's not doing it because he's like mu'ad to do such a thing. But somebody that does put it, he's going to be over on the Yisur Av, lo tamol dam recha. But he says, but in the case of our student, since he was almost like a rodef even, right, because he was doing a lachis to get him angry and so on and so forth, there's no obligation to save him, so therefore we say even on him, halitelo l'shav yamot. Halitelo l'shav yamot is a ratzon Torah. That's what the Torah wants. In order that they should come back and they should do teshuvah, right, and he should die in doing teshuvah instead of coming and dying, right, the way that he dies being a thief. And with this, we finish, right, this shiur for today.